You want to double your creativity. Great. It's a worthy goal for all of us. Being creative is part of being human. It's one of the things that separates us from our animal cousins. And to experience this, you just have to look around wherever you might be watching this today. For starters, you're probably watching this on a phone or a computer, and it's being sent around the world by the internet. So I'm sitting here at my home in Geelong in Australia, and you're someplace else. That's amazing. And that's the result of ingenuity, innovation, and creativity. At a personal level, you might want to be more creative in your personal life, your business life, or just for the hell of it. You also might want to create something specific. You might want to write the great Australian novel, or create a painting to put into an art gallery, or it could just be you want to create some fabulous meals for your family. Oh my God, those mozzies are bad. Gotta put it on my head. Before you begin, to be able to say that you've doubled your level of creativity, we need to create some kind of benchmark to refer back to. And there's a very simple way that you can do this. It's give yourself a creative rating. So score yourself, how creative do you think you are right now? On a scale of 0, meaning that you don't have a creative bone in your body, right through to 10, where you're a creative genius and you can create almost anything at any time. Take a moment and you might want to write this down. You want to answer the question, how creative are you? Great. Now we want to dig a little bit deeper. You want to ask yourself, why did you rate yourself this particular score? So let's presume you scored yourself 4 out of 10. How come you didn't score yourself a 2? Or how come you didn't score yourself an 8? What was your reason for your score? And by reflecting on this, you'll identify and give yourself a clue as how you define creativity. And this is important. For instance, you might have said, well, I gave myself a 4 because I can't draw faces very well. And this then reveals that your version, your interpretation, your definition of creativity is that it's got something to do with a skill that can be measured, and it's probably got something to do with art and design. To shift your level of creativity and ultimately your rating that you just gave yourself, you simply need to shift the way you define creativity. I used to run a creativity program based on this exact activity. As a result, I've seen hundreds of answers to this very exercise. I know what people typically write down when they define creativity for themselves. The key is not the score. It's not the number you write down. It's your interpretation of what is creativity. Almost everyone rates their ability to be creative based on 2 things. They consider it a skill that they have or haven't got, and they relate it to a specific area or activity. So let's pull those 2 apart. The first one is that it's a skill that can be practiced and learned. I certainly agree with that. But too many people benchmark themselves against the elites, the Picassos, the Einsteins, and the Edisons. Second, they relate that skill to a very narrow domain around art and design. And to be honest, most of us don't work in that area, so naturally we don't have highly developed skills in those areas. For instance, what people say is, to be highly creative, I need to be able to draw a face so you can recognize who it is. Or write a great, entertaining novel that people will read from start to finish. Or they can design and decorate their house at a level that would get them on a reality TV show. But this approach to creativity is limited, and your ratings prove that. Most people rate themselves less than 5 because they're comparing themselves against the wrong things. We have this view that artists are creative, but accountants are not. But deeper down, this is really limiting because it refers to creativity based on something that we do. As an alternative, you've probably heard of the phrase be, do, have. You need to generate the right way of being to generate the right action to take so you can have the things that you want. All of this begs the question, what does it mean to be creative compared to doing creative? When we do creative, we naturally focus on the level of skill we have in that specific task. And that's what limits most of us in our understanding or our perception of how creative we are. In contrast, when we're being creative, it's not really skill-based in the same way, and it's not limited to a specific set of activities. It's something we can all do at any time. In fact, you're doing it right now. You're generating a way of being right now. It might be creative, it might not be. But I'll bet you're watching this because there was something in the title, the promise of this video, to double your creativity that you're curious and interested in. So you've probably come into this video going, wonder where this is going to go. You might have your doubts, but here you are. Another example. When was the last time you hang out with some young children? I bet when you did that, you were generating or bringing playfulness and probably some fun to that situation. But compare that to when you turned up to work on a Monday morning and you probably didn't want to be there, but that was probably more like it was serious and more formal. That's a different way of being that you brought to that situation of work. These are all creative choices. It's you choosing, whether you're conscious of it or not, your way of being, or what you'll bring, your intention, your attitude, your mindset, what you're bringing to the situation that you're in. To be creative, as compared to doing creative, to be creative is you deliberately choosing what you'll bring to your situation and the activity or the action you're about to perform. Now for a practical exercise that you can do in the next 2 minutes. Pick a mundane, everyday activity and bring creativity to it. This might be to wash the dishes, cut some vegetables, clean up your room, put some clothes on, or brush your teeth. The goal here is not to do creative. So if you were doing creative around brushing your teeth, you might think, oh, using my other hand might be creative. It might be, but that's doing creative. And the same, you might decide to throw the vegetables up in the air and throw the knife at it. That would be a creative way to chop vegetables. Might be a little bit dangerous, but it's also doing creativity. We don't want to do creative here. We want to be creative. For this activity, consider you're doing that for the very first time. So if you were eating grapes, what's it like to pick up the grape and then put it in your mouth? What does that feel like? Simply see how this feels and see where this takes you. Once you've done this for 1 or 2 minutes, stop and notice and write down how that felt. What was that experience like? And most importantly, rate yourself. How creative was that experience? Did you double your level of creativity in that moment? If you applied that interest, curiosity, exploration of your way of being in different situations in your life, how creative would you feel? How would your life, your experience of your life, be different to what it currently is? So congratulations, you've just been given the Willy Wonka golden ticket to creativity. Love to hear your thoughts. Add a comment down below and let me know. Did you double your level of creativity? And what was your experience of being creative? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.